I mean, the piece I wrote today was a reply to a piece that was in the Times actually a few weeks ago. And it had bothered me for those few weeks. I was finally able to reply to it. And it was this idea that, as most readers will know, the fertility rate across the West is collapsing. But according to this opinion person in the Times, he said, don't worry, because what we'll do is we'll just run loads of immigration. We'll just have an open border. And although that will solve our future economic problems, because obviously in general, you need, children to grow up and become workers and contribute to the tax system. He said, don't worry about that. Low fertility rate is fine. We'll just import all the foreign workers. And I just couldn't believe he was sort of equating an adult, as I said in the piece, whether it was foreign or not, to a child and to children. And I really resent how this fertility issue is being discussed solely in terms of economics. Because as you say, I think culture trumps economics. And for me, at least, even if it didn't have an economic problem, children are valuable in and of themselves. They're not something that just can be replaced by, a worker that you have stolen from somebody else. Somebody else has taken the time and energy to raise that child to become an adult. And now it seems the West are just saying, you know what, we're just going to steal everybody else's grown-up kids and then we're done.
Yeah, Homo economicus is hyper-rationalism taken to ludicrous extremes. I've been in villages in northern Italy where the schoolhouse is now empty because there are no kids. I've been in villages on the East German plain where the same thing has happened. There's actually something sick in a society that has given up having children, isn't there? Yeah,
I mean, I just, without being too sentimental about it, as you said, you shouldn't be sentimental about public policy, but I just don't think people understand what you would actually lose if you live in a society that has fewer and fewer children. And although, as I said in the piece, I don't think we're looking at Children of Men just yet, which is, by the way, one of my favourite movies. I know a book also. You just lose so many ideas. You lose a tremendous amount of innovation, because this is the other thing. People always think about it in terms of economics, but actually the Western economy now is nearly entirely dependent on ideas. Who has the idea for, the iPhone? Who has the idea for the next great change that improves our lives? It's the idea that really counts, because pretty much anybody can make the product or service. And ideas will always come from young people. And it's their energy that you need. And as you say, I've never been to Japan, but I have no desire to go there, because I guess it's a bit like maybe a seaside town in Britain now that has very, very few children and is dominated by retired people who go and want to retire by the sea, which is fair enough. But what you have to ask yourself is this really the future that you want, where, if you don't have any children, you don't have any families. So you're not just looking at a child-free society, you're looking at a family-free society. And you're also looking at a hyper-liberal society, because I think statistically you do get more conservative if you have a family, because you obviously want to pass on broadly speaking, more conservative values. You will want to retain institutions, which by definition are usually conservative, for the next generation. So the fewer children we have, the fewer adults with children we have, I think you're looking at a very selfish society and a very cold society. As I said in my piece, no grandparent has ever said, gosh, I can't wait for my foreign worker to open up their Christmas presents on Christmas Day. I can't wait to see their little faces. It brings me such joy. Nobody will ever say that. I think we should be very cautious as well about, do you really want to be around adults, just adults, who don't want to spend the time and energy that it takes to raise the next generation? Because I would rather not be part of that society, no matter how many workers we have.
No, it is actually faintly creepy. It's a breach of all healthy societies are a compact between the past, the present and the future. And the Japanese at least understand that if you make robot nurses to look after you in the old folks' homes, those robot nurses don't bring other issues. It's hard to imagine that, for example, all these Albanians we're settling in Britain now would be willing to pay high taxes to support the last English, Scottish, Irish, Welsh people tottering about. In other words, the social compact on which high welfare societies depend breaks down once the young people are completely different from the old people.
Yes, exactly. There's no link between the generations. There's no sense of duty from the younger people, of which there'll be much fewer, to say, well, we were looked after when we were kids, you know, when we were annoying, they put up with us and they raised us. So it's now my duty to look after my parents and my grandparents. As you say, all those contacts, all those that sense of family and community duty is lost when you just have a completely atomized society, when you have no common memories, when you have no common bonds. And yeah, the sense that you should actually pay tax. And remember, the tax burden on the next generation, as that generation gets fewer and fewer, is going to be enormous, so enormous that I suspect that the few, you know, young people coming into adults, the rising generation, if they can leave, I suspect they will leave because the tax burden on them is going to become so great.